Welcome back to the channel. I'm Jenny Kirk, welcoming you up here to Weir Yard, and today we're going to be taking a look at a model which is due for release in the UK and Europe over the next few weeks. But actually, you may be wondering, how on earth have I managed to get hold of these? Well, they're available at the moment in North America and have been for a little while. And what makes them quite unusual in this respect is that they are Welsh prototypes that are being modelled. But there's reason to this. It's because the entire project has been spearheaded by Bachmann Trains USA, and this has been spun off the very successful Thomas the Tank Engine range that was expanded to include members of the Skarloey Railway, which was one of the main narrow gauge railways featured in the original Railway series. And certainly I do remember these incredibly well from my own childhood. So it's great to see that Bachmann have listened to a lot of requests from modelers to produce the real life counterparts of locomotives such as Skarloey, and Talyllyn has been born. It's lost the face off the front and it's got much more accurate colour schemes, but what has really stood out to me is just how well detailed these models are. But they're also quite tiny, and that's come with it a few restrictions, such as these models are not DCC ready. There just isn't any space to realistically have added in a DCC socket in there, and that's going to be a bit of a nuisance for the DCC modeler. Part of this reason, it's got quite a big bulky motor by narrow gauge standards, and that takes up a lot of the space. And that's where Tramfabriek come in. They're offering all three versions of Talyllyn in the black, the red and the green liveries, with a number of unique to them upgrades that make this something special indeed. First of all versions, whether it be DC, DCC or DCC sound, have had a new motor fitted. This is a coreless motor that gives a lot more torque and power and is smooth and really quiet. That also liberates up a little bit of space inside these models, which means that if you go for the DCC or the DCC sound, both versions include the decoder from Zemo in there and some high-powered stay-alive supercapacitors that mean that this will become one of your most reliable performers on any 009 track layout. If you go for the sound version, then there's a few more custom modifications on top of that, with firebox flicker and a speaker hidden away in the cab that gives a really great sound reproduction, and a custom sound suite from the Tramfabriek sound experience that gives you something unique tailored to the Talyllyn model. And there's some really great features on that too, and we're going to go through all of that in today's video. If you do like what you see, then we've got a link down below taking you to the Tramfabriek website where you can find these models available to order. But do remember that they are made to order, and the price reflects that these are each handcrafted from the original Bachmann model, putting in all of these unique features. But as we go through today's video, don't forget to hit that like button, consider sharing it to social media and subscribe to the channel if you're not already done so. But I've been really looking forward to this. It's a really quirky little narrow gauge model that ever since it first appeared in the Thomas the Tank Engine range from Bachmann Trains USA, I have been secretly hoping that one would appear true to prototype, and well, prayers have been answered. And let's check it out and see just what Tramfabriek have made of upgrading this fine model. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabriek.co.uk. We're proud to be supported by TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for new and used. Pre-order all forthcoming models with confidence, or check out the extensive listings of second-hand. Each model is checked by experts in the field to make sure you're getting the very best. With new models uploaded daily, there's always something new to find. You can also specify from their value weathering and renumbering service right through to bespoke graffiti to get exactly the model that you want. Get something special today by browsing at themodelcentre.com. Our American viewers would probably be quite familiar with these models. Originally released as part of the Thomas the Tank Engine range, these represented Skarloey from the Skarloey Railway and the Railway series books. By popular demand, they've actually tooled up to be able to make these in their real-world guises, and these have proven to be really quite popular in the US, so much so that there's been huge demand for them globally, and Bachmann is now bringing them to other markets officially. Previously, you would have had to have done a grey import, which is where you effectively go through somebody who's bought them in the States and then imported them into somewhere like the UK. Now, they haven't yet officially been released in Europe, and that includes the UK, but they are due in the next few weeks. And it'll be interesting to see what, if anything, has changed with the models from their US releases. The main focus of today's video is not actually to review the model extensively, it's actually to take a look at the Tramfabriek upgrades that are available and have been available for a little while now for these models, and these can be bought through the Tramfabriek website, and we've got a link down below. And the options that are available with these are having the motor upgraded to one of Tramfabriek's really super duper powerful and really smooth and quiet motors, but as well as that they offer a sound and stay alive fitting, and also a DCC, plain DCC if you want to go that route without the sound, also with stay alives fitted, and they really are quite a neat installation, so much so that you can't really see, certainly on the DCC fitted, where any of this electronics has been squeezed in. Now, these use Zemo decoders and the Zemo supercapacitors to be able to make this happen. Now, there's 3 different liveries available: the red, the black, and also a really quite attractive green. But Tramfabriek have very kindly sent over for review the full sound fitting in the black liveried model. And then I've also got a plain DCC fitting in the red model, and I've actually managed to persuade Tramfabriek to add the firebox flicker into this. Now, normally the firebox flicker isn't part of the regular DCC upgrade, but I really do quite like the firebox flicker options, so I managed to persuade him to add this in. For those who want to know, we've got item number 59101 and 59102. The catalogue numbers may be changing for the European releases, and of course the packaging as well. I suspect they might come in Bachmann Train's green narrow gauge boxes to match the rest of their UK and Europe releases. Now, these are actually listed as HON30. The reason for this is because Americans don't know what the heck OO gauge is, and therefore by extension 009.
The metric system is the tool of the devil!
And HON30 is the US convention on naming narrow gauge models. Once we've got them out of the box, we just got these lift-off plastic parts which hold everything in place. I don't know whether these are better or worse than the clamshells that we're used to, but they do seem to do the job. And these locomotives are absolutely tiny. Just to give you a sense of how big these are, they just fit neatly there into the palm of my hand. Now, they've got an 042 wheelbase on them. What's interesting is that the prototype locomotive was originally delivered as an 040, and the trailing pony truck here was fitted in the first 2 years to improve ride quality. And looking at the actual wheelbase, it does strike me that the overhang would have been absolutely huge at the back without that trailing pony wheel. So I think it was very quickly deduced that it wasn't the greatest of designs. Now, this is the Tramfabriek upgrade with the sound, and the only real evidence of this is the fact that we've got the speaker enclosure in the cab there just down at the bottom, and behind that we've got the firebox flicker, and this can be really readily hidden by the addition of crew figures, although as it comes from Tramfabriek, there's no crew in there, so you can basically upgrade it with whatever you want, either from Northumbrian Painting Services, do some great white metal figures, or model you. And actually in the case of a small locomotive like this, I personally do recommend a white metal figure simply for the extra weight that it brings. Now, these are quite light locomotives, and a little bit of extra ballast weight is no bad thing. One of the major areas of upgrade that's visually apparent is you can see that the back head there of the locomotive chassis has been cut down, and then the cut has been tidied up with paint. The reason for this is that, strangely, the models as they come from Bachmann have a piece of metal, I suppose, for ballast weight, but it goes all the way up to the cab roof. And when you look in through the spectacle plate at the front, all you see is black. It's a very peculiar design, and as you can see, it's not really necessary for the running of the locomotive, and it massively improves the look of this. Now, this is offered in the sound fitted version, but I've actually persuaded Tramfabriek to do this as well on the red version, and the main reason, I think, other than aesthetics, that Sven at Tramfabriek has done this is because it allows easy, ready access for the wiring for the speaker and for the firebox flicker into the cab. And as you can see, the cab inside is already finished in the same kind of cream colour, so actually it's a much improved look in there in the cab. The rest of the model really is quite impressive for something that was tooled up as part of the Thomas the Tank Engine range. This is actually an incredibly detailed model, and we've got so much fine detailing going on. Now, the coal load in there is moulded in, and I think that's just out of necessity, and underneath there I'm guessing there is part of the metal of the chassis to provide some much needed weight. We do have a plastic cross slide, but the slide bars are metal, and then we've got some really nice fine connecting rods. And because 009 is actually narrower than it should be for 2-foot gauge, which it normally represents, they should actually run on 008 to be accurate. 009 is actually the right width for these, but the wheels do look a little bit narrow. I guess there was quite a huge overhang on the prototypes, and you can also see here we've got the rear pony wheels. Now, these don't have a huge amount of sideways play, and I was a little bit worried about this, but it does get round Myneth Tatus Newydd really quite well. There are a couple of places where there's kinks, where it kind of bobs around a bit, but other than that, it does get round, and I suppose it's helped by there's a lot of sideways movement actually on this axle too. A little bit on the front, but I think all the heavy lifting is being done by this center axle, and it doesn't seem to affect any of the valve gear. Now, it's really easy access to the internals of the locomotive for cleaning pickups and such like. We've got 3 screws, and actually this part of the base plate just lifts off, and then you can see the pickups are from wipers onto the wheel backs, although it does have brass bearings in there, and I found as long as everything is seated correctly, it's actually really quite a smooth runner. We've got a lot of die-cast metal in here, especially in things like the cylinders and such like, and the body too, and this is giving much needed ballast weight. The livery application is of the standard that you would expect from Bachmann. It's pretty crisp, but you can probably see some of the Thomas the Tank Engine origins with these moulded in buffers. They are quite chunky, they're not sprung, not really a problem. And then we've got the standard narrow gauge style couplings, but these do unplug quite readily, and then you've got the standard 009 fitments there, which you can swap out for couplings of your choice if you so wish. Now, Tramfabriek do chopper style couplings, which are pretty good, but my personal preference is I use the magnetic couplings from West Hill Wagon Works, and you can see here I've already pre-fitted the red model with those. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model 00 gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest loco.
Now looking into the cab on this again, that back head has been removed on this particular option. It does make for a really nice, neater cab interior, and of course then you can see through the windows in the cab. They're not actually glazed looking at this. I'm just looking at the other one as well. Hadn't actually noticed. It's one of those things that I thought, oh, really nice flush glazing. No glazing whatsoever, but it's not readily apparent. This is actually the first time I've truly noticed that. Now, one of the things as well that's very apparent, we've got this really quite a strange design at the back of the cab that's sort of tapered in, and I can only conclude that that's to aid clearance for the crew to be able to look round. But it has this very peculiar taper in. Now, the cabs weren't original to these locomotives. Originally, they just had the spectacle plate at the front, and the cabs were left to fend for themselves in all weathers. The cab was a later addition and probably much welcomed by the crew. In the cab there you can see the firebox flicker, and that actually works really well. Powered on this DCC only model on F1, it actually works really well. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to actually add in some extra ballast weight in here eventually. This is the one that I've purchased myself, but for now actually it does get round Mynydde Tatws Newydd really quite well. The wheels too have this correct pattern. They're actually very solid, almost cast style wheels. And on the red version here you can see we've got the spokes and the wheel rims picked out in this off-white colour, and then the deeper castings and the counterweights in there picked out more in the red. On the black model the entire wheel is finished in the black livery. There are other extra detail parts. We've got what appears to be the injector picked out in a brass colour, and then we've got really quite strong whistle there on top of this steam dome at the back. This is actually appears to be, I'm not sure actually whether that is moulded as part or whether that's a glued on part. I think the black bracket definitely is a separately added piece, but that is actually pretty good. The funnel is a one piece with everything, and then we've got a representation of the lamps front and back. These have painted lenses. They're just a solid casting. They're not functional, and maybe that's something in the future Bachmann would consider making functional. But as I understand it from the factory, the models are not DCC ready. Certainly the US versions are not. It remains to be seen whether the European releases come with some kind of DCC socket, but by all accounts, as far as I can tell, that's not going to be the case by virtue of lack of space, and that's where the Tramfabriek conversions really come into their own. The Stay Alive actually gives quite a few seconds of running on. Certainly on the sound-fitted version, I was quite impressed with just how far the locomotive can go without being in contact with the track, and that makes for a super silky, smooth performance. There's no traction tyres on this, and actually that is something that I know a lot of people do bother about, and it's nice to see that Bachmann has not bothered going down that route, and certainly performance is adequate without such things. It picks up from all 6 wheels, and that does make it quite reliable even when running without decoders, without Stay Alives. But the Stay Alive is hidden away inside here somewhere. Tramfabriek have done a really amazing job. One of the other upgrades too is the new motor that they fit. Now they offer this service for a lot of different models, but on Talyllyn it really does make for a silky, smooth, quiet performance on these models. It's really powerful, and it means that even down to an almost imperceptible crawl, there's no issues whatsoever with the running qualities of these locomotives. Looking now to the sound programs that we've got on this, so there's a lot of paperwork that come with these. So we're looking there on the inside, and you can see that the motor is replaced on these, so it's a much smaller motor, and I'm guessing that then liberates space for the Stay Alive, the Zemo supercapacitors that are in there. There's actually a lot of separate parts, and you can see that whistle is separate. The rear lamp is separate as well. The buffers are separately fitted, but quite a coarse casting, and I'm sure that these are something that will be upgraded in due time. It'd be interesting to see if the European release addresses some of the crudeness of the buffer heads. The rest of this model, a lot goes into it. The split chassis might worry some people, but definitely the materials technologies have come on a great deal, and I'm not worried at all for the operation of this model. Now, in terms of the Tramfabriek sound experience that's loaded onto the sound-fitted models, you can see that we have got a large number of different functions, and some of the spot sounds will play whilst the locomotive is running just by pressing the F1. Now the F11 with the safety valve lifting, I'm talking to Sven at Tramfabriek. He says that the real ones tended to run a lot of their time with the safety valve lifting, so running it with F11 on is often quite a good match. But we've got a lot of other interesting sounds on here as well. We've got F23, the sound of sheep. It's subtle, but it does add a nice ambience. We've got F15, Dolgoth station announcement. We've got the air pumps. These have recently been fitted as the exemption that the Talyllyn had for not running train brakes has recently finally been superseded over 100 years from the railway first running passenger trains. F25 is really interesting. Abergynolwyn by Indignation Meeting. This is actually a music song. Very interesting. And talking to Sven, actually it's 128 megabits of space on a sound decoder, and that equates, if you assume of course it's playing in mono, so you only need a mono sound, and you can halve the bitrate sampling, which is the quality of the sound file, with no real appreciable loss of sound quality. There's actually enough room, by my reckoning, for around 24 minutes of audio on this sound decoder, which is truly fascinating. But even with all of the other sounds on here, it means there's enough room for a song on there. And believe me, it's quite peculiar to hear that coming out of the locomotive. We also get full information on customization of the sound profile, including changing random sounds and how to change the spot sound volumes as well. So it's really quite comprehensive. So I've got the locomotive on my 009 programming track. So I'm going to turn on the sound and going to work through some of those different spot sounds that are available from the Tramfabriek sound experience.
Station for the food and the water. Hi there.
Looking to the plain DCC version, we've got some information as well with that, with some information on how to enable the F2 brake key. Now, this version has the firebox flicker added. That is something I requested, and I'm assuming that it can be requested from Tramfabriek. If you really want to add that in, it will cost extra to do that. So we've got some information on changing the CVs, and if you do a factory reset, changing CV8 to 8, then these will need to be changed again by the user. And we've got some other information on here as well. Prices are as follows. The base model in analog but with the coreless motor upgrade is $149.95. To add DCC and Stay Alive, which transforms the performance of these models, that takes you to $199.95. And for the full sound and firebox flicker edition with the backhead cutaway to really open up that cab and bring out the best in this model, it's $289.95, but they are handmade, so do make sure you realise that they are made to order. So there you have it, the full Tramfabriek upgrade experience on these Talyllyn models. And I must admit that before I started filming, I did wonder what the point was at changing out the motor. After all, Bachmann must have chosen a motor that was up to the job. But what struck me when running these models is just how super silky smooth these motors are. They just simply glide away from a start, even at really low speeds. There's no notchiness whatsoever, and it was a stellar performance all of the way. I also really like the sound file. That Tramfabriek sound experience is unique and really does stand out, and it's just an absolute joy to listen to that locomotive chugging around the layout. I also really like the DCC only version with the Stay Alives in there. I don't know how Tramfabriek have managed to fit all this in, but there's no evidence in the model of the Stay Alive or the DCC fitting. It's tucked away so neatly. I love the firebox flicker. It's one of the things that if you're going to have DCC, you might as well have the features. And I do like what Tramfabriek have done with removing that backhead detail from the cab on the sound version, and because I asked really nicely, they did that for the DCC version for me as well. It really improves the look of the cab, and maybe that's something that Bachmann could look at in the future. I understand why it was probably there to do with ballasting, to get extra weight in, because these really are quite tiny locomotives. But what I've shown with these, they do actually, when running on the track, perform reasonably well. And I had an 8-coach train, albeit tiny little slate wagons, just trundling around Mynydde Tatws Newydd quite happily behind one of these modified locomotives. As always, please leave a comment down below. It's always great to hear from you. I'd love to know what you think about these models. Have you already got one? Have you got one on order? Or after watching this video, perhaps you've decided you want to go for the full bells and whistles and you've ordered yourself one through Tramfabriek at the link that we've got in the description box down below. We've also got an affiliate link to TMC, the Model Centre, if you just want to get one of the regular releases as and when they come out. Those are also available as well. And at the time of filming, they're due out in the UK probably in the next few weeks or so. You can also see my Talyllyn in red running at the debut of Mynydde Tatws Newydd at an exhibition at the Bluebell Railway on the 28th and 29th of June. So it'll be great to see you there. Bring along your Monday Club badges and we'll have ourselves a good old meet-up. Until next time, like, share and subscribe. Take care of yourself and happy modelling. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabriek.co.uk. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest loco.
We're proud to be supported by TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for new and used. Pre-order all forthcoming models with confidence, or check out the extensive listings of second-hand. Each model is checked by experts in the field to make sure you're getting the very best. With new models uploaded daily, there's always something new to find. You can also specify from their value weathering and renumbering service right through to bespoke graffiti to get exactly the model that you want. Get something special today by browsing at themodelcentre.com. I'd like to thank everybody over on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to our Patreon heroes. Without you guys over on Patreon, we really wouldn't be able to keep making the video content that you see on this channel. And don't forget that you can also head on over to patreon.com/JenniferKirk and check out the different tiers of rewards. Thank you so much. You are absolute legends.